when you fail, it's over. There is no going back. You fail in your marriage, you fail in business, you don't go back. But as time goes on, you realize that you're going to make mistakes. We all do. We're human beings. We make mistakes.
Who remembers Les Gold from hardcore pawn? The loud shop, the crazy customers, the family drama, the deals that always felt like they could explode at any second. Now, the same man who built that entire empire brick by brick over 40 years wakes up one morning and realizes everything he worked for could disappear in less than 3 days. Not months, not years, just 72 hours. Sounds unreal, doesn't it? That's exactly why people all over the internet couldn't stop talking about what happened in 2026. And the last part, that's the one nobody expected at all. Let's find out. Who is Les Gold and why you know him? Talking about the man behind American Jewelry and Loan always feels interesting because the life story shows how a business can grow from something very small into something huge. And the name Leslie Les Gold always comes up in that conversation. Leslie Gold entered the world on June 20th, 1950, in Detroit, Michigan, and the background already carried a strong connection to the pawn business. Pawnbroking did not start with Leslie Gold. Pawnbroking already lived inside the family for 3 generations, and that alone makes anyone stop for a moment and think, how often does a career path get decided before childhood even begins? The grandfather owned a pawn shop called Sam's Loans on Michigan Avenue in Detroit, and that shop became the place where everything really started. At only 7 years old, Leslie Gold made the first sale inside that shop, and that moment stayed important for the rest of life. Imagine being that young and already standing behind a counter, already learning how buying and selling works. Would any child understand at that age that such a small moment could turn into a 40-year career later on? Maybe not, but that early exposure clearly planted something strong. Growing up around a pawn shop meant daily lessons without anyone needing to call the lessons by name. Customers came in with problems. Customers needed quick money. Customers needed trust. And a pawn shop sat right in the middle of all those situations. Watching that every day naturally shaped the way Leslie Gold thought about business. By the age of 12, signs of an entrepreneurial mindset already started to show. Instead of waiting for money to appear, Leslie Gold bought whole pizzas and resold slices to other students at Hebrew school. That simple move might sound small, but looking closely, the idea shows something bigger. Who thinks about profit margins at 12 years old? Who looks at a pizza and sees a business opportunity instead of just lunch? That kind of thinking usually does not appear by accident. That kind of thinking usually grows from being around business every single day. Years passed, and the real turning point arrived in 1978 when Leslie Gold decided to open American Jewelry and Loan. Opening a pawn shop is never an easy step because the business depends on trust, reputation, and location. The shop opened at the Green 8 Shopping Center on 8 Mile Road in Oak Park, and that location choice already showed careful planning. Anyone familiar with the Detroit area knows that 8 Mile Road carries a strong identity. Setting up a pawn shop near such a busy and well-known area meant constant traffic and constant opportunity. The business started small, but the idea behind the business made sense. Many customers needed fast cash, and many customers did not want credit problems to follow. A pawn loan solved both issues at the same time. Instead of borrowing from a bank, a customer could leave an item, take a loan, and come back later to reclaim the item. That system built steady business because most customers actually returned. Around 80% of customers came back to pick up pawned items, and that number shows something important. The business did not depend only on selling goods. The business depended on trust and repeat visits. Growth did not happen overnight, and another big step came in 1993, when operations moved into a much larger building on Greenfield Road in Detroit. The new location used to be a bowling alley, and the size reached about 50,000 square feet. That kind of move raises a simple question. Why would anyone take the risk of moving into such a huge space? The answer connects to confidence. A small shop can only handle small business, but a large building allows more customers, more items, more loans, and more sales. The location also sat close to the famous 8-mile corridor, which kept the business in one of the busiest parts of the area. A pawn shop survives on people walking in every day, and that location made sure the doors never stayed quiet for long. Over time, American Jewelry and Loan became more than just a neighborhood pawn shop. The name started to carry weight across Detroit, and the reputation kept growing year after year. By 2011, the business expanded again with a second location in Pontiac, Michigan. Expansion always brings another question. How does a pawn shop grow that much without losing control? The answer comes back to the same idea that started everything. The business focused on loans more than retail sales. Many people think pawn shops make money by selling items, but the real money often comes from the loans themselves. Customers leave jewelry, electronics, tools, or collectibles, take cash, and return later to get belongings back. Because most customers come back, the same items can bring profit again and again, without ever needing to stay on the shelf for long. Looking at the full journey, the path almost feels like something planned from the start, even if nobody said that out loud at the time. A grandfather owned a pawn shop. A child made a first sale at 7. A teenager started selling pizza slices. An adult opened a store on 8 Mile Road. A larger building came later. Another location followed. Step after step kept building on the last one. That kind of progress makes anyone stop and wonder, was success the result of luck? Or was success the result of learning the business from the ground up for an entire lifetime? The answer probably sits somewhere in the middle. But one thing stays clear. American Jewelry and Loan did not appear overnight. And Leslie Gold did not become successful by accident. Every small moment, every early lesson, and every risky decision slowly pushed the business toward becoming one of the most recognized pawn operations in Detroit. Hardcore pawns rise to fame. Everything really started to change for Les Gold around 2010, and looking at the whole situation closely, the turning point almost feels like one of those moments that could have easily gone the other way. Back in 1998, long before reality television became what it is today, producer Richard Dominic happened to notice local television commercials running during breaks on The Jerry Springer Show, and those commercials featured Les Gold promoting the pawn shop in Detroit. That simple moment raised an interesting thought in Dominic's mind. What if a pawn shop could actually become a television show? What if everyday business inside a place like that could keep people watching? At the time, the idea sounded unusual, maybe even unlikely, because pawn shops were not exactly the kind of places people expected to see on television every week. Still, the thought stayed alive, and years later, in 2008, producers finally approached the Gold family with the idea of turning the business into a reality series. That moment created tension inside the family, because Seth Gold did not like the idea at all in the beginning. Seth believed that cameras inside the shop could damage the reputation of the business or make serious customers uncomfortable. That concern made sense, because any family business built over decades could be put at risk by the wrong kind of attention. But Les looked at the situation differently. Les believed the opportunity was too big to ignore. Les believed that television could bring exposure that advertising alone could never create. That difference in opinion led to a serious discussion inside the family. Should the business stay private and safe, or should the business take a risk that could change everything? In the end, Les made the decision to move forward, even with Seth still unsure. And that decision turned into one of the biggest moments in the history of the shop. When the series premiered on August 16, 2010, the response surprised almost everyone involved. Around 2 million people watched the very first episode, which immediately set a record for True TV as the most-watched premiere in the network's history. That number alone made people stop and ask a simple question. How could a pawn shop show attract that many viewers on the first night? The answer slowly became clear as more episodes aired. The show was not only about buying and selling items, the show showed arguments, negotiations, emotional customers, family disagreements, and the kind of real situations that happen when money, memories, and pressure all meet in the same room. People watching could recognize those moments because the reactions felt real. Nothing felt staged, and that honesty kept audiences coming back. By June 2013, the audience grew to more than 3.4 million viewers, which proved that the success was not just luck. The series continued for 9 seasons and reached a total of 162 episodes before ending in 2015. That is a long run for any reality show, and the popularity did not stay only in the United States. The program found strong audiences in countries like Spain and Italy, where viewers connected with the same mix of family tension, business deals, and unpredictable customers. Why would people in different countries enjoy the same pawn shop story? The answer seemed simple. Family struggles, money problems, and tough negotiations look the same everywhere. While television brought fame, the business itself kept growing at the same time, and that part of the story might be even more surprising. Les Gold did not start with a huge company. Everything began with a single storefront in Detroit, and over the years that small location turned into a full operation that handled an incredible amount of daily business. At the main Detroit shop alone, around 50 workers stayed busy every day helping customers, checking items, writing loans, and managing sales. More than 1,000 loans could be processed in a single day, which sounds almost impossible until the numbers are seen in context. Pawn shops deal with constant movement, constant questions, and constant negotiations, so the pace never really slows down. Inside the warehouse, the amount of stored merchandise reached more than 50,000 items at one point. Just thinking about that number raises another question. How could anyone keep track of so many things at the same time? The answer came from organization, experience, and a system built over many years. The warehouse alone held about 4,000 televisions, along with jewelry, tools, instruments, and all kinds of unusual items that customers brought in. The Detroit store was not the only location either. The business expanded to Pontiac and later grew to as many as 5 locations, with close to 200 employees working across the company. That kind of growth does not happen by accident. Growth like that usually comes from long hours, careful decisions, and the willingness to take risks when the moment feels right. In 2013, another unexpected step happened when Les decided to write a book called For What It's Worth: Business Wisdom from a Pawnbroker. Some people might wonder why a pawn shop owner would write a business book, but the idea actually made sense after the television success. Years of experience inside the shop created stories, lessons, and advice that many people could learn from, even people who never planned to enter the pawn business. The book reached number 4 on the New York Times bestseller list, which showed that interest in the story went far beyond television viewers. Reaching that list is not easy for anyone, and the result made it clear that the name Les Gold had become known far outside Detroit. By 2025, the estimated net worth connected to all that work stood at around $5 million. That number might not sound as high as some television stars, but looking at the full journey makes the result impressive. A local pawn shop commercial once played during afternoon talk show breaks, and years later, the same shop turned into a television hit, a growing business, and a best-selling book story. Thinking about the whole path raises one last question. What would have happened if the idea for television had been rejected back in 2008? Nobody can really know, but the decision to take that risk clearly changed everything, not only for Les Gold, but for the entire family business that started with one small store and slowly turned into something much bigger than anyone expected. What happened to Les Gold in 2026? Something strange had been building for months before everything finally started falling apart. And Les Gold could already feel the pressure long before anyone outside noticed anything was wrong. Think about this for a moment. How often does someone who works face-to-face with people every single day start noticing changes before the news ever talks about it? That was exactly what happened inside the 8 Mile store. Gold started seeing signs that did not look normal, and the first signal came from something very simple. The pawn line kept getting longer, but the redemption line kept getting shorter. That small change might not sound serious at first, but what could that really mean? In a pawn business, people usually come back to pick up items after getting back on feet. So when fewer people return, something deeper is going on. Gold explained that customers were no longer coming in to reclaim valuables the way customers used to. Instead, customers were walking in with worried faces, handing over watches, chains, tools, and anything that could bring quick cash. The pattern kept repeating day after day, and after a while, the situation stopped looking temporary. Gold started saying that people were not pawning items for extra money anymore. People were pawning items just to survive the week. That detail alone said more about the economy than any report on television. What kind of situation forces someone to give up personal belongings just to make it to the next paycheck? That question stayed in the air every time another customer stepped up to the counter. The pressure did not appear overnight. Gold explained that the change grew slowly over several months, and the last 6 months before everything collapsed felt different from anything seen before. Customers looked tired, worried, and unsure about the future. Many customers openly admitted that money ran out before the next paycheck even arrived. Gold described the situation by saying that most customers lived paycheck to paycheck, and some customers lived even worse than that. Instead of planning for the next month, people only thought about the next few days. That kind of thinking showed how serious things had become. When people stop thinking about the future and only think about getting through the week, what does that say about the condition of the economy? Gold kept watching the same pattern repeat, and every day inside the store started feeling like a warning sign. The business itself also started feeling the pressure. American Jewelry and Loan had survived for decades, using a system that always worked. People pawned items when money got tight, then came back later to redeem those items after things improved. That cycle kept the business moving and kept customers coming back. But suddenly, that cycle stopped working the way it always had. Customers still brought items in, but fewer customers came back to get items out. The warehouse started filling up with things nobody returned to claim. Shelves became crowded with jewelry, electronics, instruments, and tools that just sat there. Gold started noticing that even when items went up for sale, buyers were not spending the way buyers used to. Why would buyers hold back at the same time sellers became more desperate? That question pointed to something bigger happening outside the store walls. Gold often described pawnbrokers as street-level economists, and that description made sense after hearing what happened during that time. Economists on television talk about numbers, charts, and reports, but pawnbrokers see real people standing right in front of the counter. Every item placed on the counter tells a story about someone needing help. Gold explained that when redemption rates fall, something serious is going on in the real world. Redemption rate means how many people come back to get items after pawning them. When that number drops, it means people cannot afford to get belongings back. When people cannot even afford to reclaim personal things, how strong can the economy really be? That question stayed in Gold's mind as the store kept filling up with unclaimed property. Day after day, the same conversations repeated inside the shop. Customers talked about rent, gas, food prices, and bills that kept getting higher. Some customers admitted that pawning items became the only way to keep lights on at home. Others said that without the pawn shop, there would be no way to make it through the week. Hearing stories like that every day started changing the mood inside the store. The place still looked busy, but the feeling behind the activity felt heavier. Gold explained that the line for pawning stretched longer than ever before, but the line for redemption almost disappeared. That single detail told the whole story without needing any charts or reports. If more people give things away than take things back, something is clearly wrong. As the months went on, the situation moved faster. What started as a slow change turned into a rush of desperate customers. More items came in than the store could easily handle. Storage space started filling, and workers had to organize merchandise carefully just to keep track of everything. Gold said that the warehouse looked fuller than ever, but the full shelves did not feel like success. Full shelves meant people were hurting. Full shelves meant customers could not afford to return. Full shelves meant money problems were getting worse instead of better. How often does a business grow bigger while at the same time feeling like something is going wrong? That strange feeling stayed in the air as the pressure kept building. Then came the period Gold later described as the 72-hour collapse. The warning signs had been there for months, but the final shift happened fast. Sales slowed down, redemptions dropped even more, and customers started looking more worried than ever. Gold explained that moments like that show how fragile the situation really is. One day, everything looks normal, and a few days later, the entire system starts shaking. Watching customers struggle day after day made the reality impossible to ignore. Gold said that pawnbrokers often see trouble before anyone else because pawnbrokers stand at the point where people turn when money runs out. When more people show up with problems, the economy is already in trouble, even if nobody wants to admit it yet. Looking back at that time, the signs seem obvious, but at the moment everything felt confusing and uncertain. Long pawn lines, short redemption lines, full shelves, worried customers, and slow sales all pointed in the same direction. The economy was under pressure, and the pressure finally reached a breaking point. Gold explained that the experience showed how quickly things can change when people start running out of options. When survival becomes the only goal, normal business patterns disappear. That was the moment when the 72-hour collapse stopped being a warning and became reality. Legal troubles and business disputes. Reports began to surface suggesting that arrests had happened and business conflicts were brewing, though exactly what had occurred remained unclear from the information that was available. Questions naturally arose. How could a family business, one that had been around for generations, suddenly be shaken by legal trouble and internal disputes? Many wondered what kind of pressures could push things to this point. It appeared that mounting financial strain, complicated legal matters, and personal disagreements all came together at once, creating tension that affected every corner of the company. The pressure didn't just come from the outside. Economic stress and the constant worry about lawsuits and debts seemed to feed arguments that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. It was as if every small dispute became amplified under the weight of money, reputation, and legacy. People asked themselves whether there had been warning signs that were simply ignored. Could things have been avoided if decisions had been handled differently? The answers weren't obvious, but the results were clear. Relationships were strained, communication broke down, and trust within the family and business partners began to crack. Officials and insiders noted that disagreements that might have once been minor escalated quickly. Every betrayal, every unexpected decision, and every unilateral move seemed to inflame emotions and make cooperation almost impossible. Was it just bad timing, or had the combination of financial and personal stress created a situation that no one could control? Many believed it was a mix of both. The family conflicts reportedly made everything worse. After operating successfully for 3 generations, the empire that had been built over decades began to show signs of fragility. Observers asked how a business that had survived so long could suddenly be undone by internal strife. The answer appeared to lie in a combination of factors that had slowly accumulated over time. Betrayals, shocking decisions, and disagreements about who should lead, how resources should be allocated, and what strategies to pursue all seemed to pile up until the situation became unmanageable. People involved described heated meetings and arguments that grew more personal with every interaction. Could this have been prevented with better communication or clearer boundaries? Perhaps, but the pressures were so high and so complicated that even small missteps carried serious consequences. As money concerns grew and the stakes became higher, loyalty sometimes gave way to self-interest. Individuals who had once been united by family ties now found themselves at odds, each believing their decisions were right. Someone might wonder whether pride played a role. Could personal ambition and the desire for control have outweighed the sense of duty to the family business? Many suggested that this was exactly what happened. Reports indicated that legal entanglements only added to the strain. Lawsuits, disputes over contracts, and threats of regulatory scrutiny all created an environment where even routine decisions became risky. Officials and insiders explained that when legal and financial pressures intersected with family conflicts, every choice carried extra weight. Could any decision be made without someone feeling that it had negative consequences? Probably not. The stress didn't just affect business operations. Personal relationships within the family reportedly suffered as well. Arguments at meetings often spilled over into personal conversations and family gatherings. Decisions about money, control, and succession became emotionally charged, and trust that had been cultivated over decades began to erode. Observers asked whether it was ever possible to separate family feelings from business decisions in a situation like this. Experience suggested that when stakes are high, separating emotion from strategy is easier said than done. Even with decades of experience in running a family business, the emotional dynamics proved powerful enough to influence every choice. Economic stress reportedly played a central role. Changes in the market, pressure from competitors, and the need to modernize operations meant that decisions had to be made quickly and often with incomplete information. Every delay, every disagreement, and every conflict over how to respond could have serious financial consequences. Was it just bad luck that these pressures coincided with internal family disagreements? Or was it a predictable outcome of putting personal and professional responsibilities into one intertwined system? Many observers felt it was a combination of timing and structural vulnerability. The long history of success may have masked underlying tensions that only surfaced when the business faced intense external challenges. Betrayals, poor decisions, and conflicting priorities magnified the impact of these pressures, creating a feedback loop where each problem worsened the next. People close to the situation suggested that the decisions made during this period were often shocking to others in the company and in the family. Moves that seemed reckless or abrupt caused resentment and distrust to grow quickly. Could anyone have predicted such a rapid unraveling? It seemed unlikely. Even seasoned advisors reportedly struggled to mediate or guide the family toward solutions. The combination of economic difficulties, legal risks, and interpersonal tensions created a situation that became almost impossible to manage. Every new conflict appeared to open the door for another, and the pace of disagreements reportedly accelerated. Questions naturally arose about whether the collapse of harmony was inevitable or if intervention could have saved the business. Many suggested that by the time signs of trouble became visible, the underlying issues had already grown too deep to resolve easily. Ultimately, reports suggested that the empire that had been built over 40 years began to crumble because multiple stressors converged at the same time. Decades of loyalty, investment, and careful planning were challenged by betrayal, shocking decisions, and the relentless pressures of finance and law. Could any family survive when personal disagreements are combined with financial and legal crises? It appeared that the answer was no. The business, once a source of pride and stability, reportedly became a battleground where every decision was scrutinized, every move questioned, and every relationship tested. Observers noted that the combination of family loyalty and self-interest created a tension that seemed almost unavoidable. How could a family honor its legacy while navigating personal ambition and financial stress? That question lingered over every meeting, every call, and every decision. Reports explained that the decline happened gradually, but with increasing speed once conflicts escalated. Every disagreement over money, control, or direction fueled the next, creating a chain reaction that became nearly impossible to stop. Decisions that might have seemed minor at the time reportedly had cascading effects that undermined confidence and cohesion. Could better communication, mediation, or planning have saved the business? Perhaps, but insiders noted that when trust breaks down, even the best interventions can be too little, too late. The accumulation of betrayals, shocks, and disputes seemed to reach a point where no single solution could repair the damage. Each new problem added pressure, and each new decision carried the risk of intensifying tensions rather than resolving them. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.